front door and back door.
No, that's the back door.
Hi, good evening, everybody. It's me again, Sarah Chiu, talking about a new language theory, basket starfish. And I will let this slide run a little bit before I change to another one. And this is basically to sum up what I want to do with my theory, and presenting a female point of view and also an Eastern one to integrate with the Euro-Centric view of the linguistic theories in the last 150 or 200 years. I think we need to change our view a little bit. Okay, good evening. Thank you for watching. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about the writing letter A and the K. I'm going to explain why A and K stay at the beginning. Actually, A is of course the alphabet in the Western system, and the K sound actually the letter K, as if you want to think like that, the letter K is actually the first in the Eastern Indic system. Why the A and the K is so important and where they came from. So let me do the slides. Just bear with me for 1 second. Okay. Okay, let's start. Okay, what I believe is that language do not develop on their own without finding expression through cultural practices. Now most of the language theory, they talk dryly about the development of languages and grammar. It seems that they are far, far away from real life itself. But as everybody knows that language has to express themselves in real life, so there's no way that a lot of this expression actually do not express themselves through what you see in day-to-day life. And last week I was talking a little bit about the trend of using the gold or the Capra family as the way of expressing beauty. The first word you see right there is the word Capra, or sheep or gold, all the family in Chinese. And then the second word based on the gold or Capra itself, it's beauty. And this one right here with this sign right there, very, very similar to the Sumerian sign of what is coming down from heaven above. There's word means blessing in Chinese. And I showed you last week that, from India to Yemen to also Africa, you still see female like to decorate their eyebrow that way. And then all these, the rest are what I took in Yemen. Either than expressing beauty, they also use it, to give blessing to the baby when they get sick. So why all this Yeah, this is the sign that is very similar to the Sumerian sign. And why all this, suddenly there was a world trend, believing in, taking in the Capra family instead the long revered bull. And first of all, I have taken you back to thousands and thousands years ago. And here are the pictures that you see in a lot of in ancient caves, especially in the French ancient caves, more than 30,000 years ago. And this is the Chauvet caves and the Lascaux caves. You see tons of horned animals. How human beings have been watching these animals for many thousands of years. And you can imagine that, especially when the weather was cold, if that was even during the Ice Age, you see that air itself and breath itself was actually very visible at that time. You see the power of a horned animal. But then that's why at the very beginning of a human civilization, you see a lot of God mimicking the power of the bull, and you will see a lot of statues of carving. You will see human being putting on crowns of bullhorn in order to get their power. But as time went by, you will see that Alexander the Great actually come with a very new trend. He's no longer wearing the bullhorn, he's actually wearing a ram's horn. And how is that so? If you pay attention to the relics of a lot of the archaeological finds, you'll see that other than a lot of bull displayed around for thousands and thousands of years, you see that an undertone of ram god actually existed. And I would show you some pictures of the ram gods. First of all, the Egyptian Ammon, which is actually a ram itself. And last week I also talked about why the beard of the pharaoh was so important as a fertility sign. As you can see that the pharaoh standing right there under the protection of the ram god is actually the continuation of his beard. The beard of a pharaoh was actually made of a goat's beard, and right here you can see that is actually the continuation of the beard. I showed you last week that it's actually playing puns with fertility itself. It's actually a continuation of the thread, the fertility thread of the god himself. And then you will see in the internet you can find a lot of these pictures. You will see the Egyptian pharaoh Seti is also wearing the ram horn, and when culture changes, you see the Greek Zeus also was wearing a ram horn. Remember, there's not a bull horn anymore, right? And then the Roman Jupiter also wearing a ram horn. It seems that the whole trend changes to the Capra family. And of course, this is Alexander the Great also wearing the ram horn. And so what happened in the past, you can see right there. At the very beginning in the Sumerian writing, this word right here, am, actually means wild bull. But then as time goes by, the writing continues, but you can see that later on, even the U actually took on the same sign. So because the cuneiform limitation, they cannot draw a curving horn. So the same cuneiform right here, you can see that it can mean actually the Capra family, not necessarily the bovine family. And I want you to pay attention to this sound. It is a vowel sound, as same as this a vowel. And you will see as my theme today of why A stands at the beginning. And A and U, A, E, I, O, U, as you know, are the vowel sound. And you will see it right here. The U is actually the U in English. Whatever way you spell it, in people's mouth, it's still very similar to a vowel sound. Okay, and then it's very, very close to Jupiter. And of course, now because of the writing problem, people slowly begin to pronounce it as Jupiter. But at the beginning, they were all vowels. And U is closely related to juvenile. It's actually linked to the word young. And as I look at this more and more, I begin to notice that it is actually about the whole young generation usurping the old generation. This is the trend of the ram actually taking over from the domination of the bovine images represented by the old god and old religions. So you see that last week I also want to tell you about the reality turned into writing, but I didn't have time, so I will show you this week. And as you can see, the word R itself is actually the reality of a ram itself. This is the Chinese word of the Capra family. And this is the word ram. Of course, you know, the later writing actually become like this. But this is, I'm sure you know this sign. This is actually the Aries sign, the ram sign of the horoscope. And the Greek actually wrote it in another way, and a lot of the people look at it as a P, but I can tell you it isn't a P. If you have to really write it the correct way, it has to be go like this and then coming down that way. It's actually mimicking, you know, the curving of the horn of a ram itself. And there is a Greek word called rollo, and the rollo is actually mean roll. So you can see that the R itself has a lot to do with the rolling motion. And then R itself also, because it came from the head itself, and a lot of this R word actually became the later Raja, the king word, you know, also in a way means the head. And again, I will show you this Y Aries. And Aries is actually a very artificial word. This is a compound word already. A was the original, very, very ancient mimicking of the bull horn. And then the R is already the combination of the ram together with the bull horn. And you'll understand it better as I go on. But anyway, in a world that people did not depend on writing, people can actually link things much easier than we nowadays. If you look at hieroglyph, you know, you will see that the sun itself actually is explained as the sun god Re. But if you look at the English writing now, it doesn't make you understand a lot, you know. But then in the ancient head's mind, when they say Re, without looking at this word, they actually know that the Re is actually the sun god. The sun god is actually sometimes appeared as the ram itself. So the sun and the ram is actually side by side. And the Aries itself is the beginning of spring, and it is when the stars, you know, enter into that sun sign itself. And as I said, this is the cartouche of the pharaoh Ramesses, and you can see that the Re here is the sun here. And then when you want to look at it in the reality, not in the writing form, this is the ram itself, you know, showing the Ammon. The Ammon is actually the sun god that protects the Re itself. And I mean, you have to understand things very different from the modern understanding. And after I show you that, I want to give you a jot in the your accepted thinking. Our present writing system keep punching on the keyword actually disconnect our understanding to our brain, because action of writing actually conveyed a lot of meaning to our brain. As I said, you know, when you roll your hand like that, your head actually understands it better. And then the other thing is that being a Chinese, when we write, when as a child, we were taught again and again the direction of the stroke were very important, and the sequence were also very important. And again, this is the first sign of the horoscope. And of course, you know, Alexander the Great himself, of course, he took himself as the first of the whole race itself, because he's the king himself. And this is the word ram. And I want to show you an Arabic word and a Hebrew word also start with an R. The R, the ras or the rosh, actually means the head itself. And the writing itself is also a rolling action, and the word itself means head and top and forefront. So the ancient, when they spoke without reading visually, they actually understand in a different level than us. And I show you a bunch of this word too, and you can see that it starts with a lot of the A, because this time I'm actually going to talk about the A and the K, but I have to make you understand the R before I go on, because you will see that the aho here is actually means that to be the first, or the reason to be. As you can see, all these vowel always start as an unseen energy, as a leading energy into anything. And because it actually has a lot to do with this bull head itself. And this bull head, you know, in Greek is kappa. And the Greek actually puts it right there to indicate, you know, in the rough understanding. Of course, now it's the printing, we print it that way. But for the Greek itself, the Creole actually takes the K sound. And for them, it means the ram itself. And then the alpha, why it takes the lead is because, you know, it also leads the whole writing circle. It is the bull head itself. When I say bull, it doesn't really mean the bovine family. The bull can be a deer bull, can be any animal that has horns, okay? And then in Latin, Aries is indeed the ram itself. And Ariete is actually become the deer itself. And this is a Chinese writing for the head. And this is, of course, a horn head. But as time went by, it actually turned into a deer head. As you can see, in the ancient, they don't care what animal that is, because they were actually herding a lot of different animals, including the bull, the capra, the deer family. And now I can really go in to why the A and K is leading the writing system. And again, I want to show you some more picture to give you a visual picture of how people make writing into reality. As I said, this is the Chinese writing for beauty, and this is the Mongolian bride. You just see old dresses. Of course, now they become modernized, but this is their traditional thing. Can you see how similar they are in mimicking a ram itself? And I don't know whether it is a remnant of a sun worship, because the Mongolian were also herders of a lot of capra families. And okay, now I am using a different viewpoint to show you why A and K is leading the family, because of my ability in reading pictograph. And as you can see, as my slides goes on, and you will see that it actually shows you the domestication of animal and plants in human history. And I'll show you quickly here how the changing form of the leader of the writing system. This is the hieroglyph ka itself, okay? It is a bullhead. When it goes one way, Proto-Sinaitic, through the Phoenician, and then through the Greek, it actually becomes the K. And when it goes the other way, it became the A. So actually this ka itself, it, other than just meaning the physical head, it actually means the soul and the living vigor. And you can see clearly that the Greek used the kappa this way. You can find it clearly in the word kephali, the head, or you can find it clearly in kinesi. Kinesi is what you know as kinesis, or kinetic motion or movement. And the other way is alpha, also the leading alphabet. And you will see all this word, the archangel or architecture, the leader who tells people how to build, you know. And then the auto become, you know, the intrinsic motion of movement, or the author become authority, or the anima, the soul, the action, the animated being. All these are indicators that the ancient already put in to indicate that there is a souled being, okay? And Latin is alma, anima, auto, is all become the soul and self. And in Sanskrit is the atma. So either the sound, they preserve the sound R, and you preserve the writing RA, okay? So So these are the unseen energy. I said again, when they were not using the writing system, the alphabet, they depend on the sound. This ang itself is life itself. And then the car itself is soul. And then this is A. If I spell it out, it's like this. This is K. And that is the Chinese. We actually have a lot of this symbol. And when we write the foot, there is a symbol showing that. It's like having a battery pushing the foot movement. It's also an unseen energy that push the feet. And there is one of the dialect, the Fujianese actually call the foot ka itself. The ka actually means action. And then this is a Chinese word, kai. Kai actually means to begin, to start, to initiate something. And of course, the K, as I said, become the leader, the first consonant in the Eastern system, like the Sanskrit. And then the A, the small a, I write it in smaller a to show you that it is a vowel. It is a leader, the first vowel in the East and the Western system. And because it's a living sound, it is an inherent vowel. Because in the Sanskrit system, they write out the vowel, and then they all know that without the R, the intrinsic R, this consonant can never make a sound. So all the consonant has to carry a little R right there before they can make any sound. So they look at the vowel as the soul of the language. So of course, very plainly, even the form, you use A, the West used the A as the leader, as the first alphabet in the Western system. And I will show you the domestication of animals shown through writing. And you see that domestication of animal, all these, animals, still the cattle preserve the ka sound. The goat is actually a mutation of ka, ga sound. And all this requires a leader. And what I'm showing you now, they were actually Chinese. Can you see how many A signs were there? We look at it sometimes as the foot itself. Sometimes we look at it as a sign of motion. And these words are actually talking about the migration. This one is crossing river. This one is going down slope. This one is going down different paths. And this is hieroglyph. And this is the car. And the sound actually stays with the car and the calf, and of course the soul and the vigor too. And this is the Chinese writing. We preserve the word ao right there, and it means cattle, calf, and cow. And this is also our writing, the food, and it says gerg there. I want to show you this. Have you ever wondered why your foot part of your foot is called calf? Because this is the calf is actually the part that push you forward. When you have a brain that push you to think, and then that when you put things into action, that the first step you take is to move your foot to achieve your goal. So your calf is actually very related to that unseen energy that puts you to action. And as the Greek, the sign actually turn upside down, become your A. We always understand the alpha male, which is the leader. And I will show you this. There is something very ubiquitous in Chinese. This is the sign. And if you turn it around, it is the Western A, okay? In Chinese, the same, it means action, energy, and existence. The A-E-I-O-U is actually viewed as the same. That's why in ancient Hebrew, in Arabic, and also in hieroglyph, they never wrote the vowel out, because they knew that that unseen energy actually mutates according to different situations. They dare not write it down because it can be R, A, E, O, U. So what's the point of writing it down when that unseen energy keeps changing? So now I want to show you how vowel sounds, become visible in our writing system. What I'm showing you is the Sumerian writing of to speak. The word to speak is A and E. Even in Cantonese now, when we speak informally, we will ask people, what are you A-ing? A means to speak. What are you saying? It's A, So this is the human head. This is all this line showing the air coming out of the mouth. that is to speak, or it actually also means to come, to go, to enter. It actually indicates motion itself. So if you look at it carefully, if you speak Spanish, you will notice that, or French, or this Latin system, the R, L were all used as a preposition, as a directional movement. You go towards something, you always use R or Al to indicate that. Okay, more Sumerian, you see all this line. This is an R, this is an arc, and this means to do, to act, to perform, to make. So in ancient time, I will go on to explain that in the next slide. To make is to create something, is actually speak of something. But I will show you some very similar form of this strokes of air. This is the hieroglyph sign, this is the Chinese sign. We have also this sign which is very similar to this one right here. And if you read comics, you will know that this is very similar. This is how we express sound, you know. A, E, O is actually air coming out. You know, that's why you have the word iras. That means air and ether. And whenever you do air, it's always, you know, a sound, you know, or it's a silent hey, hey, something like this. The whole world system, either they follow the system or they always use the hey, hawa, ha, or they put it as a suffix of the, something in front of ah at the end. They always express it that way. So because this living sound is a proof of life, that if you can make a sound, that means you are alive. And because the dead can never make any conscious sound or A, E, I, O, U like that. Okay, so I want you to see how the ancient look at the power of words. As I said, this is to make, you know, as you can see, air coming out. I'm sure you know in the Bible this paragraph. It means God said, let there be light. So there was light. So you can see that. So the ancient understand that, you know, when you say something, it becomes true. So, but now we actually abuse the using of words itself. In the ancient time, people actually speak very less unless it is necessary. So not like us now, we speak actually a lot. We abuse our speech. We don't keep to our words, and that's one of the big difference. Sorry, time again, I cannot control it well. I guess I have to continue my A and K next week. Thank you for watching.